Neighbourhood plans, in my view, are a real expression of localism in action in the planning system. I'm actually a great supporter of neighbourhood plans now, not only because they do offer real opportunities for good placemaking, but they're offering genuine opportunities for community involvement. And I think what we're seeing now increasingly is multi-generational involvement. Children and young people are starting to become involved in planning, or at least understanding where they live and how where they live should grow, should develop, etc., more than in the mainstream local planning process. So I'm a recent convert to neighbourhood planning.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now I'd like to talk to you about the examination process, because I know, of course, you've been involved in examining neighbourhood plans. So how does it all work?
The examination process is softer, is the word I use, than a local plan examination. But the examination of a neighbourhood plan still has to meet certain criteria, and they're known as the basic conditions. For example, conformity with the relevant development plan for the area. And I'll come on in a moment to just talk about that one in particular, because that actually does raise issues. The local planning authority and the qualifying body appoint the examiner of a neighbourhood plan. The qualifying body is the term for the group, be it a parish council or a neighbourhood forum, that have actually prepared the plan. They appoint an examiner. The examiner will receive, after 6 weeks of formal consultation on the submission plan, he will receive that plan, all the supporting documents, and any representations that have been made. In most cases, the examination will be a desktop exercise. And that's why I use the word softer, because it is not the formal process of a local plan hearing, which of course can last a week, maybe 2 weeks. Whilst a desktop examination is the rule, there are of course exceptions, and certain neighbourhood plans will require a hearing, but even those hearings generally will only last maybe 1 or 2 days. And that's to explore clearly the issues in more depth. The examiner will report much quicker than is the case on a local plan examination to the local planning authority. And his report will take normally one of 3 forms: that the plan is entirely fit for purpose and should proceed to referendum. Secondly, that the plan will be fit for purpose with certain modifications. And if the local planning authority accept those modifications, it can proceed to referendum. And finally, that the plan is not fit for purpose and should not proceed to referendum. Now back to the point I talked about a moment ago, which was conformity with the development plan. This is the area where I think neighbourhood plan groups are struggling most in meeting the basic conditions, simply because a number of the development plans in England are now long in the tooth and are out of date, frankly. And a neighbourhood plan needs to be not only up to date, it needs to be forward thinking. So they have difficulty working against the different time horizons of an out of date adopted local plan and an in-date forward thinking neighbourhood plan. Meeting the basic conditions as part of the examination process does throw up some issues, and they are understandable issues because the planning world uses techniques, uses processes that the general public are largely unfamiliar with. So, for example, a neighbourhood plan must be subject to at least a screening opinion for a strategic environmental assessment, SEA. And of course, nobody in normal life understands any of that. And we are coming across, I'm afraid, neighbourhood plans that have not been subject to a robust SEA screening, or in some cases the actual need after screening to undertake an SEA. So it's that type of issue that requires real support from the local planning authority. And there are good examples of that. And I'll give you one, for example, that I've worked with. Horsham in Sussex has a really good support system for the neighbourhood planning groups that are working in that district. And I think that's true of many other districts as well. But there are some authorities that are not giving the necessary support to neighbourhood planning groups. And I'm afraid you see that evident in the plan that comes forward for examination. And that gives the examiner a problem, because the plan has to satisfy the basic conditions. And if there is a failing there, the examiner can't rectify that failing. And that has led, I'm afraid, to a number of plans failing at examination. And I spoke a few moments ago about conformity with the development plan. And again, that's an issue that is throwing up in a number of occasions on examination. A good neighbourhood plan, in my mind, is one that has a vision for the area, has a set of objectives for the area, has a suite of succinct policies, well-formed policies. Don't have to be long policies, but well-formed planning policies for the area. What it shouldn't be is a tourist guide or a potted history or an expression of non-planning matters. And you do see some of that, I'm afraid, in neighbourhood plans. Doesn't have to be long. In fact, some of the best plans, in my view, have been the shortest. And certainly that helps the examination process. Most of all, though, I think it should be a clear, modern-looking document using, wherever possible, photographs, illustrations, maps, because they can speak 1,000 words. And obviously, there should be an expression of what that relevant community wants.